I'm John Dennis. I'm running against Nancy Pelosi.
We have the most beautiful state and one of the most beautiful places in the world, and people are leaving.
I'm gonna catch you when all the cameras aren't around, and I'm gonna you up. I'm tired.
He's the chairman of the San Francisco GOP, and he's running against House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Step back, everyone.
All right, welcome to the John Dennis Report. Thanks for joining. I'm grateful to have you here. It's nice to be live. I've actually got a really short, brisk show today because we have a conflict. I've got to get out here and do some family-related stuff. While we're waiting for people to join us, I did want to mention if you're following today and can keep track of this. And can maybe shoot me little comments. There was a bad choice of words, by the way. There's a shooting, an active shooting going on at the Veterans Home up in Yountville, California. It's in Marin County. I actually know someone, a longtime Republican, San Francisco GOP Hall of Famer who lives in that Yountville Veterans facility. So if there are any updates that you think are relevant, go ahead and please post them in either. I'm monitoring the comments in both Facebook and on Periscope. There's only so many of these platforms I can look at any given time. So if you happen to see them and you're on one of those, see some updates and you're on one of those platforms, please go ahead and let me know what's going on. And before we get into the main topics today, I also wanted to mention something about Asian violence, which I think, did we talk about that yesterday, Mario?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I would talk a little bit about that. I mean, it was live. It was people were talking about it on Twitter last night because the attacks just keep continuing, particularly in the Bay Area where we have a really big Asian community. Lots of Chinese in the city of San Francisco. We have, good number of Filipinos, some Vietnamese, some Japanese. It's just a really terrible thing. But for those of you who've been following the live streams for some time, you'll know that I've mentioned, and I've even mentioned this, I think, on Twitter, that there's an uneasiness between the Asian community and the Democrats. They most of the folks most Asians in the Bay Area and specifically in San Francisco are registered Democrats, but it's not a very comfortable relationship because, well, my take on it is sort of the negative take that the left has. I'll give you my version of it, which is that the Asian community came here to the United States to succeed. Their cultures, if I can generalize, are largely committed to conservative values, family, education, pursuing success, pursuing achievement. And that's not a very good fit for the Democrat Party. In fact, today there was a tweet that some guy was put up Noah something or other, and I responded to it. He was a leftist who was complaining about the nuclear family, saying that we've got to break down the nuclear family. And all of these leftists, these communists, socialists, whatever they want to call themselves, they always want to get your kids. They want to get control of your kids. And I think the reason for that is because they need to brainwash them early because their systems are abject failures. But going back to the Asian community, these are the truth of the matter is most Asians, based on cultural, based on their cultures, should be Republicans. They should be conservative. They shouldn't be connected to the Democrat Party, especially this Democrat Party, which puts above all else victimhood and is trying to create friction between different communities. And it's interesting that there's a woman who's the vice president of the San Francisco Board of Education, who wrote a series of tweets basically calling, and these were her words, calling Asians house N-words, house N-words. And then she didn't spell it out, but she made it clear what she was saying, and called them I think white adjacent or white allies or something like that, or saying that they were enforcing white supremacy. I mean, this is the sort of mental insanity that is going on inside the Democrat Party. And so, what's happening is Asian Americans are being attacked in the most horrific events, horrific attacks. We haven't seen this kind of thing forever. And if you ever really, not like in the quantity that we're seeing them now. And I can tell you this: there are no Republicans attacking these Asian Americans. If any of these folks who are committing these attacks are registered to vote, I can guarantee you that 100% of them are registered Democrat. So I would suggest that we have an opportunity as Republicans to and here in San Francisco, we're trying to take advantage of that opportunity to get Asian Americans to see that they are in the wrong party. So anyway, I'll continue that, to follow that story as things move on. And again, keep me posted if anybody's following that Yountville situation. I'll keep an eye open for your comments. Moving on to yesterday's Colorado shooting. So there's a couple of interesting takes about that out of that shooting. One is immediately when it came up, everyone was expecting the person to fit a certain profile, shall we say. And as it turns out, that shooter doesn't fit the profile. Fits a profile of an aggrieved group, according to the left and to the Democrats. Now, immediately and like clockwork, the calls for gun control were, that was run right up the flagpole immediately. You saw calls for it immediately, and you see, it's just an inevitable consequence. If you can put up that Ted Cruz article. And they can keep trying to do this, but there was the other one, the Ted Cruz one. No, I sent it to you after this one.
No, I just got the same link. So.
Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, I did it twice. Well, anyway, Ted Cruz was saying that that the guy who did the shooting. That what they're proposing, what the Democrats are always proposing, is to take advantage of this circumstance to take the guns away from law-abiding citizens. Criminals are always going to end up getting guns. I don't care where they are. Listen, guns are virtually banned in Europe, but criminals seem to get plenty of them. And what they're facing is an unprotected public. And so that's what we're going to see here as well. Yeah, I'd go to that page if I were you. Thanks, Mario. Appreciate it. But let's go back to the other page, Mario, to the one that you just had up. Is that up? Oh, there it is. Got it. Thanks.
Yes.
I see it. Yeah. So I mean, here, interesting thing about this is that one, the few social media postings that they've been able to glean about this guy, because almost immediately his entire social media profile across multiple platforms was deleted. Now, no one seems to know who did that, which is interesting. But the first thing is that when he's a Muslim who hated Trump, I don't know if we can see this here or not, but let me go down. Yeah, and if you look at Andy Ngo's Post Millennial, there's a article about him, shows his postings, and he hated Trump. He hated the way refugees were being treated, and so he doesn't fit the profile of a Republican, who's doing this, which is basically slowing down the spread of the story. If he fit the profile, you can rest assured that we'd be being blasted with it right now. But a second thing is that, one of the things that we take for granted because we don't even think about it, we're so committed and caught up with COVID and, recovering economy, and in my circumstance and concerns, the federal debt and the amount of spending that's going on. One of the things that we don't even think about and talk about is how the Muslim problem is gone. I mean, the Islamic terrorism problem is gone. I mean, let me be more accurate and say that, because I know plenty of decent Muslims, but the Islamic terror issue was pretty much largely eradicated by Trump, at least as far as Americans were concerned. And I find it interesting that now that Trump's out of office and we have this Joe Biden in, whose train wreck of a presidency continues to barrel down the, I'm sorry to mix the metaphors here, but it's dragging everything it can down the tracks leads to its final spectacular failure, climactic failure. The Biden administration comes in, and all of a sudden we have a Muslim situation in the United States. So, and I'm assuming that we're going to see further problems in the Middle East. Biden has increased our presence in Syria. I think he's ultimately going to back off the withdrawal of troops completely, as Trump wanted, in Afghanistan. And I just suspect that there's going to be an increase in unrest and instability in the Middle East, and this may be a precursor of this. Terrible thing that happened. We sometimes overlook the tragedy, the local human tragedy. Lives were lost, a police officer was killed, other people were killed, and it's a tragic, terrible thing. But then almost immediately, people look to take advantage of the opportunity to push their own agenda, and you have to push back, or else they get to control the narrative. And unfortunately, that's the position that I find myself in right now. So, in any event, one prediction I will make is that there will be an attempt to pass some gun control measures. Something probably will pass, but it'll be insignificant, I would think. Because in the end, I don't think that people who want to push gun control understand the final mechanics that they will have to go through in order to take away guns from Americans, and that will be very difficult. And what they will need is for people to go and go door to door ultimately and take guns from folks. And that's just simply not going to happen. So anyway, let me move on to the next topic. And that is Nancy Pelosi and her coup on the election in Iowa. So Marionette Miller Meeks was elected in Iowa, but in a very, very close race. In the fall, the Iowa Department of Elections certified the election, even though she won by just 47 votes in Iowa's 2nd congressional district, which is astonishing. But, she won consistently. And the losing Democrat woman by the name of Rita Hart, says that 22 votes she should have had were not counted, and she's made an appeal to the federal contested election using the Federal Contested Elections Act. So, Wall Street Journal puts this article up, and if you can put that up, Mario, there you go. So Nancy Pelosi, who was swearing up and down that the election was fair, there was no fraud, is actually now going to use this act, apparently, it looks like, to unseat the already sworn in Marionette Miller Meeks in Iowa's 2nd Congressional District. And I got to say, I'm looking at this. Now, the board, the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal is warning Pelosi that she's going to run into trouble with her own caucus, that Democrats who are moderate are going to be in jeopardy if they actually support this action to to take over, to basically steal this seat for the Democrats. Apparently, the Democrats only hold an 8-vote lead, an 8-seat lead over the Republicans in the House. And I think that this is, you never know which snowflake is going to cause the avalanche, but this is something to keep an eye on, because this is a real power play, and it's a real choice for Nancy Pelosi. Imagine that she's sitting at the casino, and the dealer is sitting on a picture card, on a 10, and Nancy Pelosi is sitting on 16. Does she draw the card or doesn't she? I mean, 16 normally tells you pull the card. I'm talking in terms of blackjack. This is a real political gamble here. She's not strong in her current position. She had some challenges. I think that the younger people in the caucus, in the Democrat caucus, are just looking for an opportunity to get rid of her. But, she's tenacious and organized and on it, I think, 24/7, and constantly fighting the fight and leading, and is the sort of the den mother, and is very regimented. But there are limits. So watch this carefully. I would just warn you, watch this carefully, because this could be the sorry to mix the metaphors again, but this could be the canary in the coal mine for and a strong indicator for what's going to happen in 2022. If moderate Democrats start abandoning Pelosi over this issue, and if she backs off it, I think that is a very strong indicator that the Republicans are going to have an outstanding 2022. When I first got active in politics and in congressional politics, a little more, some years ago, but in 2010 was the first real big election that I was engaged in. It was a real red wave. Republicans took back 63 seats in the House, which still is the record, I think, for a swing. And 2022 feels like it's lining up that way as well. I think there are a lot of people who are concerned on the Republican side that the elections are, that they can't trust the elections. But if they get any sense that the elections are going to be valid, non-presidential elections, congressional elections, if Joe Biden continues to do what he's doing now, which is, I think, he's going to be a very deeply unpopular guy in a very short time. And I think that's going to continue, because I don't think that he could handle the amount of pressure that he's about to get when he was in his prime. But now, in this condition, he's going to have a White House that's completely, run by faceless people, and it's going to be chaos. I mean, look what's happening on the border right now, which we talked about yesterday. Biden's not in control of that situation. He's got that cackling vice president out there who thinks it's charming to laugh at her own jokes at the most awkward times. So I don't think he's gonna be able to handle it. I think everything is pointing towards a really strong 2022 for the Republicans, and in this moment in Iowa could be the could be the indication as to which direction that's going to go in. So keep an eye on that. But Pelosi's wily. Never count her out. She knows. I think what her limits are frequently. What's going to be really interesting to see is how she fades off. I don't think she can pull it off without a lot of blowback from her side. So what I think is she's likely to do is back off. But if she does back off, how does she do it while retaining control? That's what's going to be interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. Last but not least, I've got a decision to make about getting the vaccine, and I'm going to be honest about this. These are conversations that I've had in private, and maybe I shouldn't put this out there. I'm not a huge fan of getting injections. Not so much that I'm afraid of needles. I'm really not. That's not an issue. I just would prefer not to get vaccines, and putting them in my body is not my favorite thing. I don't get the flu vaccine, even though my doctor looks at me like I'm crazy, but I just have my own thoughts about it. And I'm not as concerned about the vaccine. Now, COVID, of course, I am concerned about. My father died of COVID, and he got it in a hospital while wearing a mask. So I know, that's a really serious thing. And if you have any, comorbidities, you got to be careful about that. I don't know if I have any comorbidities. I'm overweight. That could be an issue. But I am concerned about some quiet little side effects that I'm hearing. And I think my strategy is sort of right now is going to be to wait and see when my number gets called if decide how close we are to herd immunity and should I actually get the vaccine. If I had my druthers, I would take the J&J one probably. And so another option might be just to wait until so many people have taken it that you actually have a choice of which one you get to take. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. If you have any, let me know. Shoot me a note or post something on Facebook. Send me something on Twitter, and let me know what your thoughts are on it and whether or not I should actually go ahead and jump in. I know I talked to a friend the other day who's concerned about his father-in-law passed away, older guy, and he actually was a doctor. And passed away, and he's concerned. This guy who I spoke to about people getting appendicitis and having to have their appendixes removed after getting COVID. So after getting the COVID vaccine, so there's another thing to be concerned about. Anyway, I'm going to jump now, and I don't see a ton of comments here. So about whether or not to get it. Oh, here we go. Oh, thank you so much, Ismail. Catherine Stephanie, yes, she's our local. I'll respond to that separately, Ismail. Yeah, I mean, and Ismail Rodriguez here on Facebook is saying that he thinks that it was kind enough to pass condolences on for my father. Thank you very much. And he thinks that we should wait as long as possible to take the vaccine. It's not FDA approved. Companies are making them have liability protections. That's true. And Ismail thinks that Biden's going to be removed using the 25th Amendment within 1 year. Well, we'll see. That's a good, interesting prediction. And here, Mario, do you mind if I tell people what you just texted me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Mario says that he got the vaccine and he feels fine. Mario, though, is a strapping young man, and is in a different condition than I am. So anyway, I'm going to keep talking about this when we have a fuller audience. I'll bring it up again, see if we get some more comments. But I want to thank you for joining us in the meantime. I've got a family obligation I have to attend to today, so I'm going to abbreviate the show today, and we'll try and release a couple of other videos, some other things that we've been talking about, not on the live streams over the next couple of days. But if you don't see those, I will see you Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. And until then, have a great time, and we'll see you Thursday.